It's the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA in San Francisco. We're talking all things security. I'm joined today by Todd Moore, Senior Vice President of Encryption Products at Gemalto. Todd, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Because of digital transformation, companies are generating and accumulating more data than ever. This is the era of big data, after all. How can they ensure that all this data remains secure, and what sorts of best practices are emerging around that?
So from a security perspective, there is a lot of data. It's not all created equal. Some data is more important than others. So it's important that folks understand what's critical to them and they protect it. Companies like Gemalto, we employ encryption techniques, and that is a mathematical way to protect that information so it can't be eavesdropped on or stolen. The feedback that we get in terms of trends in the marketplace is people want to be able to do that seamlessly. They want it to just happen. They want it to be automatic. And so we are seeing a lot more folks leverage the cloud. And as that digital transformation and more data is being created, more and more folks are using orchestration, automation tools that the cloud providers provide to them so they can actually protect that information.
Okay. Is there a way to avoid being breached, or is minimizing the impact the best that companies can hope for?
It's not a matter of if, but when. I mean, there's really no right way to protect from a breach. What we do, or tell our customers and other organizations we work with, that there's really a four-step process. The first step is to identify that critical data. Once you've identified that critical data, encrypt it. Protect your keys that are used to protect that information or encrypt that information. And last but not least, use authentication or access control to make sure only the right people have access to that data when they're in the right spot, in the right locations, and yeah.
Okay. So if I understand right, if organizations are using encryption to protect their data, does this present new challenges to them? And is the cloud making this any easier to perform?
So the cloud is definitely helping with the automation perspective and the orchestration perspective. People don't want to think about the concept of encryption. They want it to just happen. And so what we've done at Gemalto is we have launched our own cloud service called Data Protection on Demand, where we have a marketplace where we've taken common use cases where if I'm a customer and I know, for example, I want to encrypt Microsoft Office or an email application or even a database, I can go to the marketplace, I can click on a tile, and there's some automation orchestration tools that help the user protect that information in such a way that can meet compliance needs, because that's an important aspect of protection, but also gives you the ability to select what's important to you from a privacy perspective so that those automation tools can help you protect. So cloud is making it easier for people to protect, and our Data Protection on Demand service helps in that area as well too.
Major cloud providers now offer native encryption in their own products. How do Gemalto's encryption and authentication services work in concert with those?
That's a good question. So encryption is something that we're seeing appear in a lot of different cloud service providers or SaaS applications. Everybody can encrypt. It's a mathematical function. But there's a key that goes along with that encryption process. And management of those keys, the life cycle of those keys, is extremely important. What our services do, both in our Data Protection on Demand and authentication, is we maintain the life cycle of those keys across a lot of different environments. And what's emerging is the need for enterprises to work not with just one vendor, but multiple vendors. That's multiple cloud service providers and multiple SaaS applications. The other emergence that we're seeing is hybrid cloud, where people want to be able to protect information on-premise as well as in the cloud. And centralizing those key management functions is something that our services can do, and maintaining access to those keys is something that our authentication access management services can do as well.
How does storing and managing data in the cloud impact the work of CIOs and CISOs? Is the role of the CISO changing as a result?
No, not at all. I mean, there's still a threat landscape. There still needs to be a management of risk. The same principles and security that have always applied still apply. And so it doesn't really matter where that data exists. You have to be able to protect that information. Companies like Gemalto are providing the tools to allow you to work across all these different environments and to apply consistent policy and processes so that a CISO can make sure that they've maintained control of that data and security of that data, no matter where that data goes or where it exists.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the key trends that are reshaping cybersecurity. Do you think that cloud and digital transformation in general has brought new threats, or in contrast, maybe provided even new opportunities?
So cloud obviously is a public domain, so there is definitely different threats that need to be addressed in cloud environments. Encrypting of data and management of those keys are an important aspect to reducing those threats. So if you encrypt the data before it goes outside your organization into a cloud, you maintain better control, you maintain control over that information. I think on the opportunity side, talked a lot about automation and orchestration, the ability to do things easier, faster. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the automation and orchestration that cloud service providers provide just gives a lot more opportunities for us to add additional use cases on top of the encryption. So encryption is a foundation. You have to do the encryption to protect data, but there's other things that we can do on top of it to make it easier for folks to consume.
What are some of the main takeaways for RSA attendees that you see this year? Are there things that we're not doing in cybersecurity that we should be?
I think that there's, as every year at RSA, there's a lot of innovation that's happening. I think that from our perspective, trying to make security simpler would be a key takeaway for RSA. We talk about it for a while, but that's what I would offer to you. Make security simple.
Great. Todd, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Todd Moore, Senior Vice President of Encryption at Gemalto. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us.